Yes. Hello, Ashris. Thank you for joining. I'm inviting you to speak. Please let me know if you're not able to see the mic. Thank you so much for joining. We have Radhakrishnan Pillai sir with us. Am I audible? Shakun, please let me
Yeah,
know.
yeah, you are. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yes, yes, you are. You are.
Okay, sir. Thanks. Hi, Ashish. Thank you for joining. I'll formally start the space now.
Hi Sonali, thanks for having me. Hi everyone.
Hello. Thanks. Thank you very much. So I'll not more time. 4 minutes. We are already late to start. So let me start. So thanks everyone who have joined and yet to join. Thanks to everyone for letting this space happen. So it's a Golden Jubilee celebration space for poetry spaces that we have been consecutively doing for almost past 2 years by God's grace. So I'd like to quickly start with a note that that's specially dedicated to the two great guests we have tonight. So I look like a regular stone lying by the roadside. Anyone would hardly notice. But dear artist, the moment you picked me up and held me in your hands, I became the Porosh Pathar everyone valued. So these are the words I mean and want to speak as welcome notes to two of my most favorite, not just guests, but most favorite human beings, I would say. This moment is so overwhelming. Overwhelming. You can see me blabber, and I'm not saying these just for the sake of saying. And for everyone in the room, uh, just for the benefit, I mean, I know that everyone knows Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai sir and India in Pixels by Ashrish, but still I'll just take some moment to introduce to everyone. So yeah, Pillai sir has done till date a huge body of work, and we know him mostly for his best-selling book called Corporate Chanakya and his other 21 books on Chanakya. There's the 22nd one also, which has been published very recently, and I have the fortune tonight to facilitate its release in our space to later in the schedule. And but what has gone actually into the back to bring him to this position of writing so many books on Chanakya and become such a great leader is something that we need to look at more for inspiration. He is a PhD in Arthashastra and MA in Sanskrit, and his life has been dedicated to deep research on this field specifically. He's also a certified management consultant. His contributions are innumerable actually, but we can summarize to a very few points. He's the director of Chanakya Institute of Public Leadership. He trains leaders and aspirants from corporate, politics, academics, military, etc. And you must have also seen him speaking on TEDx, Josh Talks, and the Ranveer Show as well. So on also spiritual front, in the last space also, we had a lot of discussion on the spiritual front with Sir. He is a Mahadev Bhakt also we came to know. He has visited Kailash 4 times if I'm not wrong. I mean, he might have gone for the fifth time also this year, I don't know. And so visited all the 12 Jyotirlings. It's really, inspiring to know. And he also organizes group tours of devotees to Kailash through his organization called Atma Darshan. We had quite much of discussion regarding Atma Darshan in our last space with Sir. And Sir is into music also. We came to know in our last space and writes amazing poetry as well. He is an artist overall, in uh, true to his heart, of course. With all the discussions, we can find that out while being an educator of such a great stature. So I can go on and on with all what he has done, but I'll have to stop here. A warm welcome to Sir, and thank you for blessing me with your presence for the second time, Sir, in the poetry space. It's Golden Jubilee celebration, and it becomes grand because of guests like you. Thank you once again, Sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sonali.
Yes, and next we would like to introduce to you Ashris Choudhury from India in Pixels. Um he is a rare. He is as rare as his name is. In one of my conversations, with him, I had said that, "Are you the reincarnation of Tagore?" You'll find out why I said so very soon from his work and from what he talks. He is a software engineer with a background in architecture, and you can see the fusion of technology of art in the very beginning itself. And he's an IT Kharagpur graduate and studied at the MIT Media Lab, Boston, USA. He worked on interdisciplinary projects like augmented reality app and brain computer interface that tries to guess what you are thinking. All of this, and then you see the creative side. But he left such a bright future there and came back to India for the love of the country. He built India in Pixels that visualizes data about India across different fields like sports, culture, economy, politics, and science. His YouTube channel has almost 500,000 subscribers, and you can visit both his channel and his website called ipmaps.com, which is the easiest way to make data maps. I have written a thread both on Sir and Ashrish, which is available in my pinned tweet. Pinned tweet is a thread itself, and now just that he has earned, or not just that he has earned appreciation from the Honorable Prime Minister of India as well, for generating sound of money transacted by via UPI through a process called data sonification. So very recently, he has also he was also invited by uh, the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Sports, and Information Broadcasting, among the only 14 creators of India. He has an expertise in linguistics as well, which you will clearly find out in his YouTube videos, how beautifully and easily he both entertains and educates about the evolution of languages and their nuances. He kind of humanifies the languages, I feel. If you watch just one of his videos, why Tagore was genius, you will realize what kind of an artist he is. But yeah, I'm tired now talking about all his uh, qualities, and it doesn't end. I can keep on going, and rest of the things you can actually find out on your own. There's a thread also for reference, and hmm, yes, not to forget, he is also an amazing poet, and all of this he does while having a full-time corporate job too. So I welcome you, Ashish, and thank you for allowing me to have you in our poetry space, which is our golden jubilee tonight. It's really overwhelming. You can see that.
Thank you so much, Sonali. A lot of what you said, I probably don't deserve a lot of that, but thank you so much for having me here.
Yes, thank you very much. And I see a lot of people now in the room. Thank you, Bhairav, Rashi, Shushmita, Manoj, Gita, Manish. I cannot take everyone's name, but Anna. Everyone, thank you for joining. I had seen Saurav joining. I don't know now. I can't see him. But yes, I'll quickly go over the schedule that we have. Radha Sir, we'll have him talk on old Indian sutras and written as poetry tonight, right now after I just finish. And then we'll have Ashrish talk on history of poetry and art in India and world. Then we'll listen to self-composed poems by Radha Sir and Ashish both. And then we have the segment where we'll have Radha Sir's recent book launch, that is his 22nd book, and then a Q&A section with the audience. Please try to send a request for the mic at that time. I'll accept your request, and we'll have probably 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A. And the last segment is Why is Home and Art? That's a video released by me. We will go to the Teams meeting link that is provided in my pinned tweet for this particular section. Rest of the things we'll be doing on Twitter. Um, so this is the schedule. Now, before I delve deep into the schedule of the event, I would like to take the center of the stage to talk a little about the journey of the poetry spaces, the golden jubilee of which we are actually celebrating with so much grandeur today. I had from my school days a soft corner for literature, but I used to wonder, how did those great poets use so much in just few lines and structure it with the music of rhyme in a poem so brilliantly? Hardly did I know then that I myself would start writing poems all of a sudden from 10th standard in my school. Hardly did I know then that I would publish those many years of collection of poems in a book, which my father had suggested me to always preserve, the poems he used to ask me to preserve. And hardly did I know that I would start in poetry spaces with that confidence of writing poems for so many years and out of sheer love for it. Hardly did I know then that while facing my beloved Baba, uh, I mean, sorry, I meant to say that hardly did I know that while facing life head on the in the past 2 years, starting from losing my beloved Papa to losing many other precious parts of my life, I could manage to consistently continue hosting 50 poetry spaces in a very structured format. Hardly did I know that this journey would lead me to a connection to almost like 2,300 people, amazing people here on X. And hardly did I know that I would have the courage, the preparation, and the fortune to host such brilliant nation builders in my poetry space one day. I want to thank each and every participant in my journey from day one till date who came, who left, who stayed, who appreciated, and even who did not trust or criticized, or even some who indeed deceived. Everyone, from the bottom of my heart, all these have been possible by just the grace of God. Closing the vote of thanks with a short poem, which is in Bengali. যে ফুল দিয়ে পুজিব তোমায় ভক্তের সে ফুল তো তোমারই দান, which means the flower with which I worship, that flower as well is your giving. That's all. Thank you very much. Now I'll welcome Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai sir on the stage to have us listen to his talk on old Indian sutras written as poetry. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you, Ashris Sir, and all the listeners. It's an honor to be here once again on a very auspicious, I would say, Twitter space where we are celebrating the Golden Jubilee. And I would like to appreciate Sonali's commitment because, a lot of people start a lot of activities, but continuity is what gives you success. In fact, in Sanskrit, there is a word called as Arambe Shuraha. That means you start, you begin Aramba with lot of sure, lot of energy. But as you go far, you start realizing it becomes a lonely journey. And the very famous poem in Bengali, Ekla Chalo Re. Others may or may not follow you, but you have to continue. And you have to be your own light. And therefore, I would say this is very much for Sonali's commitment. Poetry. First time I met her also on Twitter Space, and I still remember, the commitment she's showing for this field of art, culture, and poetry is something which all of us should appreciate because today is a generation which is becoming too logical. I'm not saying that logic is not important. It is. Analysis is important. We have been trained in analysis and logics, but unfortunately, we also need to balance it with creativity. And today, in the generation of innovation, we require more artists and philosophers along with technocrats. Today morning on the tweet follow, you'll see I had posted something which got really a lot of comments, likes. It was today's generation. Today's generation requires more philosophers along with technocrats. So, who is a philosopher? A philosopher is a thinker. He or she thinks about other dimensions of life and has got love for knowledge. So, I would say today we are actually appreciating that Sonali and lots of people like her who are trying to keep the art and culture of our nation and the world alive. I can resonate this because my wife is also an artist. She's a Bharatanatyam dancer, teacher, and as parents, we have made sure that our children also are learning some form of arts. So I just want to start with one parenting tip for those who are parents or not yet parents. We have two children, a girl called Anvikshiki who is 13 years old, and a son called Arjun who is 11 years old. So they are 2 years apart. So when we're discussing, generally the parents in India, and especially our generation, we have to go to school, get educated, then you'll get jobs, etc., etc. Of course, that is important. But as parents, myself and Sureka decided that we'll have a triangle of parenting. What is the meaning of triangle? The three corners of a triangle. We will build our children in three different levels. The first one is, of course, academics. We still believe in the power of learning knowledge in schools. So we'll put them into the right school. All done. The second is that we'll develop one sports capability in them. So, sports and physical exercise are also equally important. So, my son plays cricket and my daughter is also a gymnast. So, that's one part of it. The third, which we decide, the third pillar of the triangle or the third corner is that they should have one art form. And you'll be surprised, my son plays tabla and my daughter, she's a dancer because her mother is a dancer, but she also writes poems, paints, and does a lot of things. So the idea here is that poetry is just one part of thing that I personally believe, but there are many forms of arts which keeps our culture alive. So with that, I will move on to the topic of the day, which is ancient Indian literature, where we have a lot of poetry. So, what is poetry? If you look at the definition, the expression of thoughts in a poetic format. But I'll tell you, poetry is also very inspiring. The same thoughts, when it is given a rhythm, a structure, and something that can be repeated, it actually remains in your mind for a long, long time. In fact, children should be taught poetry first. And rhymes and lullabies is something that children always are brought up in every culture. Of course, in India, but worldwide also, we have the of rhymes and lullabies. So, for all those people who got educated in the English culture, even in India, we still remember Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. So, all these are small little poems, but they remain with us forever. Now, coming back to our culture, the highest philosophies were actually given in poetry format. So, I like to mention a couple of them. The first one is Adi Shankaracharya, and the second one is my own favorite philosopher, Chanakya. So Adi Shankaracharya actually was one of the highest philosophers who taught the principles of Vedanta. But the way of teaching was not just very scholarly academic, but something that can connect to the masses, especially the common man. And a common man, whether he's educated or not, whether he has formally gone to school or not, he will be able to remember poems. So, lot of compositions of Adi Shankaracharya to teach Vedanta and the philosophy of Bhakti documented in what we call as shlokas, and lot of composition in the Kavya format. I will not be talking about the formats of Kavya and everything, but if you look at the so many compositions he has done, and non-dual Brahman being expressed in poetry formats. So there are stokas and composition that is written. That even today, after so many generations, Adi Shankara's contribution is remembered. And other person along with Adi Shankaracharya is Ved Vyas. He was a poet. He actually wrote the whole Vedas, composed it in a way that everybody can understand. He compiled, and if you look at the whole culture of India, across the length and breadth of our country, his birthday is celebrated as Guru Purnima. So I would say a poet will be physically dead and gone at one point of time. I'm sure all the poets in this particular group right now also, none of us will be in this body form forever. But we can actually continue to live in our thought format. So when you write a poem and it becomes a part of a society, believe me, our thoughts remain for a long, long, long time. And therefore, let us also not forget our own great Rabindranath Tagore, and we can see Ashris and various other people working in his thoughts. So think about how poetry could inspire nations. In fact, not only our national anthem, but also Bangladesh national anthem written by Rabindranath Tagore, and how many inspiration he gave to so many people. So I would say that Indian culture is full of poetry and literature, whatever be the language. It could be a common language that everybody understands, like a Hindi, or it could be a regional language specific to those geographies. If we know the depth of it, it can continue to inspire a lot of people. And come is the generation, coming soon is a generation that poetry will be revived in a very big way. It's my own personal wish, and I would say that with friends like Sonali, this commitment will become bigger when we see a lot of poems. So I want to now, last point, talk about Chanakya. In fact, Chanakya was teaching a very dry topic called political science. A lot of people who look into the political space look at politics being very corrupted. But the reality is that politics is a science which creates great leaders. And we also had a poet who was a great leader in our country, and that was Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Many of you must have read or even heard about his great composition. It was very inspiring. I still remember that when I was young, I had heard him once, and thousands of people, I don't think there were lakhs of people had gathered, of course because he was a prime minister, but more than that because he was such an inspiring person who actually spoke along with poetry as a tool to inspire people. The second great political leader that we had, also a great writer and a poet, was APJ Abdul Kalam himself, the president, the people's president. I had an opportunity once to host him in one of our school events, and he actually made everybody say poetry. So think about it. So many instances of where we can inspire. I would like to just quote one very famous, idea of Chanakya, which is in a poetic format, and that comes in the Artha Shastra, which is my topic of research and writing books, and it talks about leadership. I'll just quote it in Sanskrit and I'll explain to you. Praja sukhe sukham rajnah, prajanam cha hite hitam. Now, how easy to remember, but has all the philosophy of leadership in these two lines. Praja sukhe sukham rajnah. प्रजा के सुख में राजा का सुख है. In the happiness of the people is the happiness of the king. Praja sukhe sukham rajna, prajanam cha hite hitam. And in the benefit of the people is his own benefit. So, what is the philosophy? That a king should never be selfish. A leader should be selfless. And I was so inspired by this that I actually have put this quote behind me in my office. So anybody who enters the office actually reads this simple line, but these are very inspiring. Even Bhagavad Gita, if you look at one of the very monumental works, which has actually survived 5,000 years, has been documented in a poetic format. If you go to some regional literature, right in South India, we have Tirukural, now becoming very famous. Tiruvalluvar wrote it in poetic format in, of course, the Tamil literature in Tamil language. If you go towards the north, you have, the great saints like Kabir, who has written. Then we have Tulsidas, Dohas he wrote. So all these are small, small couplets, shlokas, sutras, but all poetry is included in that with a lot of philosophy. So I would say the three pillars are P, P, P. If you want to reach people, remember you have to teach them philosophy in the language of poetry, in the format of poetry. And of course, later on, with other art forms also you can include it. You can make them into dramas. All these philosophies, poetries can be composed into songs. And as Ashish is also doing, maybe make movies out of it. So today, even today, a small video on Nikla Chalore inspires so many people who are facing mental health problems. So I would say go back to our literature, find some of the gems. And today, unfortunately, in the creative space, we are having lack of old wisdom in a new format. So with that, I would say India's ancient wisdom, which is philosophical and poetical in nature, is not ancient, just ancient, but they're eternal. So let us all take the opportunity to understand these philosophies simply written for a common man, for somebody like you and me, and also for great scholars and thinkers. Thank you so much, Sonali. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, sir. It is so, I mean, it makes me feel so happy. I mean, you very correctly said, I so resonate with you in the point that it feels like যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলে রে, you started your talk with this line and you almost ended it with the same line. And it's so true that it is almost a lonely journey, and and still keep on uh, with that conviction that how wealthy this path is makes the world out of it. So thanks a lot for emphasizing this. People with your stature saying these things for this genre makes it like, it brings the limelight to the genre more. Thank you so much for all the um, points that you spoke on the top. Thank you so much, sir. um, we'll have now Ashris Choudhury on the stage to give us a talk on the history of poetry and art in India and world. Welcome, Ashrish. Thank you.
Hi, Sonali. Am I audible?
Yes, perfectly.
Awesome. So, hello everyone. Thanks everyone for joining. It was amazing listening to Dr. Radhakrishnan Sir, and I so wish, like while growing up, I had someone like access to someone like him who simplifies and uh, distills all the wisdom in such a lucid manner for us all. I have a very different approach to Radhakrishnan Sir, which is for the fact that I'm not an expert at all. I come from a background in engineering, and for most of my life, I had no interest in arts or creativity, and I was never told like there was any benefit in these things. I don't come from a family of like where we do art or literature. We read books if there is some exam, and yeah, like growing up, we did subjects because we took subjects based on whether marks will come there or not. Like the sole reason I took Sanskrit was because people get more marks, and which is understandable because like in a country where everyone is struggling to get a safe career, arts and literature usually takes a back foot. And so I think to me the whole world of arts and literature came after I felt I had hit all the check boxes that society wanted me to, like going to a good college, doing a good internship, doing all of this. And then I realized, like, wow, these still don't make me happy. Why don't these make me happy? I was told that I should be like on top of the world I should feel very happy, but something was empty inside. And I don't know what that was, but I think being in US for a year made me realize that if your roots aren't connected, if your roots aren't deep, this hollowness will always come, which I saw that people who were very well connected with their roots, they knew their history well, they knew their stories well, they knew poetry well, then there was a certain weight to their aura, their personality, which I felt I never had, because my start of knowledge and started and ended with will be relevant in some exam or not. Which is why I have such a pessimistic take towards UPSC, because we are like doing this like a learning, but it is always from a place of like this will help me achieve something. There is a saying in art I really resonate with, that all beautiful things are essentially useless, and the most useful part in a house is a toilet, and human needs are essentially are very ugly. And so when you transcend this concept of use, and when you pursue art for art's sake, I think there is some beauty that brings incredibly usefulness, but only when that is not the goal. When you pursue it for a higher spirit, which I'm not as good with words as Dr. Radhakrishnan sir, so I won't pretend like I'll be able to say something wise. I personally also don't do poetry. I feel it is very I feel like I'm not good at it, but what I am is an extreme fanboy of everything that has worked, and taking a very engineering approach to arts, trying to see patterns, trying to see connections of like, oh, how did the style change, what words were used, and trying to present it to the world like I make notes in my in my studies. When I make notes, I think like I present it to the world. I think my introduction to arts and architecture happened when I got into architecture in IIT, which was a interesting place because the whole institute is so much heavily focused on engineering, on tech, and here you are studying about architecture. Here you are studying about history of, how buildings were made, how concepts are created, and that interesting fusion I think gave me exposure to one, be exposed to arts and literature and poetry, and second, also see how do they sort of connect with each other, and how do we present it in the world today. So what I feel is like culture has to constantly keep recycling, constantly replenish, constantly keep reinvigorating. And if we have this burden of purity, if we enforce this concept of purity, then वो stagnant हो जाता है. That culture never sort of comes. We kind of still copy it. Only the cultures which survive are where art, poetry, and all of the almost destructive, constructive approach, which is like people, have a playful approach to culture. They don't just recite poetry of the past and memorize it, but also write it themselves, practice it, and take inspiration and write new stuff. That is when culture goes. Culture is like a river, right? Like art, literature, all of these are different flows which need to be updated. So I think poetry in every culture has, as Radhakrishnan sir said, it started as a way to communicate information, because we come from oral cultures. Writing wasn't a thing in many cultures for whatever reason. Materials were difficult. Writing was like really sophisticated stuff. You had to chisel on stone. You had to have palm leaves and all of this. So the common people never wrote stuff. They always had to orally transmit stuff across generations, and so it was much easier when things were rhyming, when things were easily singable. So this concept of having songs and music and information represented in this musical style goes back to thousands and thousands of years in this land, which is why I think the reason we have songs and dances in our films till this day is because we come from a land of Kabir. We come from a land of all these bhakti leaders who have always expressed our art in these forms. We take a very non-verbal form, right? Like all our languages don't just have words. We have particular gestures, we have particular ways of phrases, which makes our poetry very rich. It's very indirect. It's very lehza, as people say it, and that I find incredibly interesting. I'm not sure how you follow the videos that I make, but I have been trying to. So these videos, when I start these videos, I don't know myself where I will end these. And so across the writing of these videos, I get to learn a lot myself. And I think a trend that I have been seeing is how Sanskrit sort of, like when I study North Indian languages, I see how Sanskrit sort of morphs and dissolves and becomes our modern languages. And in the process, how beautifully people have captured the flow as poems, as beautiful dramas, as beautiful essays. And we are very lucky that we have so much of it is lost, but so much of it is also there. And it's just a matter of taking interest and seeing that we are constantly in the flow right now. Even when I speak in my videos in this English tone, I'm sure you also mix and mash languages. Kabhi kabhi Hindi mein bolte bolte we add English words. That is the style in which poetry has evolved, literature has evolved in this country. Languages fusing with each other, languages blending with each other. At a point, you don't even know if this language is A or B, or a nation of A or B. And so it just seems like there's no discreteness about it. All of this is so fluid, and poetry and literature has only accelerated that process. Now, if we start talking about how exactly these things happened, there's so much of politics, so much of like other people coming outside of India, blending it, that it easily becomes too political. And it becomes like, people's sentiments get hurt, and because like of this mahal. But if you look at the kind of work people were doing, you see that even at the face of adversity, there was a sensitivity which made people see niceness uh, at the most hurtful times. Almost, I feel like society creates its best work of art when there is crisis, when there is some sort of uthal puthal happening in the world. It's almost like there's a very counterintuitive way why that happens. But this concept of suffering and art, like people sort of always have gone towards art and poetry whenever practical life has become hard. And that's almost like the spiritual aspect of poetry. I think it takes us to a place where logic bends. When you are playing with words, when you are playing with structure, you can do things which you can't do in regular sentences. And I think that is why across cultures poetry exists, because because of this nature where like reality sort of dissolves and you can escape to this world. I think most of Indian languages, if I don't want to give a lot of gyan here, because I think we are all in the mood of poetry, and I don't want to dump a lot of my nerdy things. But I made a recent visualization where I traced how Sanskrit sort of evolved to our modern languages, and the intermediate forms, if you see, they are very rich in literature. So the Prakrits which formed right after Sanskrit was transforming, mixing with the local tongues. There were three Prakrits which you know formed like the three hooks. One in the east side we get Magadhi Prakrit, where in the north and west get Shoraseni Prakrit, and in the south and west we see Sanskrit transformed to Maharashtri Prakrit. And in all these Prakrits, we see like Sanskrit takes one personality and starts rolling with it. So to as we go towards the east, I feel, I don't know if it's the climate that changes it, it is if it's the story and cultures of the people that transforms it. But towards Magadhi Prakrit, I want to play like just few lines of Magadhi Prakrit that I had included in this Hindi versus Odia um, uh, video that I had made, and I want to show you how this sort of transformation of Sanskrit was happening. Sonali, are we doing okay with time? I'll just wrap up in like 5-10 minutes.
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So like the classical Sanskrit that we find in the Vedas, that was spoken by not like the all of the population. It was mixing with the way local people were speaking, and that gave this twist to Sanskrit, which gave us the final modern languages. Let me play this Magadhi Prakrit for you, and I'll ask, and then I'll play you Shoraseni Prakrit. These are both sort of transformations of Sanskrit, and I would love to know from you, how do you feel the difference between the two styles? All right, let's play the Magadhi variation. And let's try to experience how this ancient Shraddha Vasha sounded like. So that was Magadhi Prakrit. It is, I mean, wasn't exactly Magadhi Prakrit. This is a couplet taken from Chorcha Pod, the kind of combination of Hindi, Odia, and Assamese and Maithili. And this was what Sanskrit took the form of when it went eastwards, as people, started speaking Sanskrit there. And I'll very quickly play a Prakrit called Shoraseni Prakrit, which was what Sanskrit took the form when it went westwards and eastwards. Just a second. Here, I wanted you to pay attention on how Sanskrit sort of, softens almost. Like Padma becomes Paduma, right? And like here we see like the consonant clusters that Sanskrit has. Tra becomes Tara, Varsha becomes Barasa, and that sort of things we started seeing happening in this eastward movement. And in the westward movement, you see, let me just play it to you here. फील कर पाओ कि उर्दू एंड हिंदी का ये कॉमन गांधी एंड ऑल यू अमेजिंग Kampi Devam na Devam, Pradati Srodi Yanta, Pradati Saka Bhumina Nirayam, Rojagataha, Vikataya, Jagai Saropovi, Kamu Jeva Dandam, Hamsaya Meva Satha, Bhutaya Me Suhada, Suhaduha, So the reason I wanted to play both here, I wanted you to see sonically how sometimes you don't even need to understand the meaning of words to understand poetry. Sometimes the language and the words itself are so musical that you can feel what how the texture is varying, and that is the most interesting part of a language is to me. And so linguistics, I think you start studying linguistics and so many things come in parallel. You start learning about religion, you start learning about geography, you start learning about like so much of other things that happens. So I think that is how it all connects with me. I wish I could have given this in a more structured way, but I just want you all to take away from here is that the what culture does is keep transforming. There is no point of like insisting on like purity of something. The nature of culture is to keep transforming, and the more artistic, the more poetic a culture is, the more it is able to dynamically take many forms and increase its likelihood of surviving, of not going extinct. And so as much as I think, with all due respect, as much as respect we give to Sanskrit and take, look back to our past, I think you should also show as much respect towards the mother tongues that we have till now, which are still surviving right now. I think it is important that we don't let them fade away and care about them when they have gone extinct. While this time is there, that our Lorian, our Lokgeet are alive, we should also venture in these things to transform that, bring into new forms, even rap or like, these new interesting forms. That is when culture will sort of grow, not by preservation, but by evolution. And I think I'll pause there, Sonali. And I don't think this did justice to the very vast topic that I think thought I'll start to go with. But yeah, I hope that tickles enough brains for people to either ask me a question or get interested in this field. Yep. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so very much, Ashrish. It's like about the topic. I know the topic itself is like it's kind of an entire subject. I feel like it's a subject if you want to study the history of poetry. And I knew that both the topics that I had actually requested sir and you, I knew that no one better both of you could do, say anything on this topic. So of course we are enriched with a lot of information that you have shared with the creative way of presentation you always do. So it's always very magical to listen to you. So I totally disagree to what you said, that you did not do justice to the topic or whatever. But yeah, thank you so much. And anyone want to say anything, uh, We can go to the Q&A section later, but just we have finished both the talks. So anyone wants to say something in the speaker spot, I have invited other listeners also in the speaker spot. So please feel free to come and receive the mic and say something if you want to say to Sir and Ashrish.
Just want to add, Ashris, you was amazing. I never knew about so many things like, Sanskrit and Ardha Magdi and all, even though I claim to be a MA in Sanskrit and studied all that. But let me tell you, as you rightly pointed out, it opened out a complete new thought of line for me about poetry and Indian literature. Just want to thank you from my heart. Please
Oh
continue.
my God, thank you so much, sir. I just have goosebumps. Just it means so much coming from you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. I can feel people like me in the room is feeling like pin drop silence within and outside because we have two two good, speakers with us. Thank you so much. And I'll keep on saying, and everyone will just keep on listening to my voice. Any speakers, please come up. Shagun, you can speak up. Anna, you can speak up. Other listeners whom I have requested to join, please feel free to get the mic.
If
One.
anyone is feeling shy, I would like personally love to know from all the people who are attending that how did you guys get into poetry? What was your story? And like maybe which poetry resonates with you? I would love to know that. So if no one has anything to ask, maybe you can answer this on as a query from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. Yes, Rashi, Mahesh, Manoj, Bhairav, where are you? Shagun, Govind, yes. I can see Govind has requested for the mic.
Actually, we are overwhelmed saying both speak.
Yes, I can feel that. I can feel that. We need an inter kind of a thing. It's, I can understand. But still, we'll have to.
Hi guys, am I audible?
Is it
Yeah,
Govind
yeah,
speaking?
Gohan speaking.
There is a little bit of background noise. If you could come closer a little bit to the mic.
These are my headsets. I don't know if there's a problem. Then I'll have to find some other way. Is it better?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. You can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, see, brilliant space. First of all, poetry is one thing that I love, and the guest here today, Dr. Radhakrishnan, he's a great man. I have interviewed him once on Twitter. I don't know if he remembers, but I have changed my DP, but I had a session of him on Twitter, and
Yes, I
yeah,
remember. I remember. Yes,
great.
yes.
And Indian pixels. How you tell the Indian story. It's great. Because we never thought in those aspects like how could it change and how languages change. And in the end, we are such a diverse nation that all if you look together, it's such beautiful things coming out of amalgamation of such great languages that came out of Sanskrit and other base languages. And to your question, how I came into poetry, I write poetry as a passion. So I'll just recite what I wrote, and this was written in sixth standard when I was probably, it was like a one-sided love. So I wrote in English. It was like, meet me one day on the road, your ship of love. I like the board. Touch me with your hands like on a cord, or else cut me with a glittering sword. Fire your love and take any fees, or give me your soul on a lease. I'll take you one day to my home and treat you like a queen of Rome. Baby, please give me one chance with you one day. I like to dance. So this was a sixth standard guy who wrote this, and this was my first poem ever. So after that, I've written a few, but I just write it for having fun. But I listen to a lot of poetries, and I'm a fan of big poets such as if you go to so my so I follow a lot of Pakistani poets. Ahmad Faraz, शिद्दत कश लगी मेरी गैरत मैं कशी रही तूने जो फेर ली नजर मैंने भी जाम रख दिया और फराज चाहिए कि तुम ये मोहब्बतें तुझे नाम ने तेरे नाम पर बच्चों का नाम रख दिया और ये मुझे लगता है कि शायद अभी ये जश्न देखता भी दिल्ली में आ रहा है तो मेरे को लग रहा है सारा ये पोइट्री का सीजन ही हो रहा है सो बैक टू यू सोनाली दिस वाज माय टाइम थैंक यू सो मच
Thank you so much, Govind. I think you had hosted that space with Praveen, in which you had hosted Radhakrishnan
yes
Pillai
yes
sir.
yes
Yes.
Praveen था और एक और थे मैं हाँ खुशबू आई गेस खुशबू वाला आल्सो देयर
Okay, that was the space I had joined, and that is your space through which I could connect with Radha sir.
oh
So,
wow
yeah.
brilliant
Yes, yes, that's true. That's true.
Yes. So world is round, right? Thank you so much, Govind. And I think we have Joy Boy raise the hand. Joy Boy is no one but Bhairav. So Bhairav, over to you.
Uh, uh, Hello Ashris and hello Radhakrishnan sir and सोनाली बहुत धन्यवाद तुमको कि तुम ये स्पेस होस्ट कर रहे हो और हम सब बात कर पा रहे हैं। तो मैं जैसे कि आश्रित बोल रहे थे कि संस्कृत और पोएट्री ये सब कैसे हुआ। तो मेरा भी मतलब मैं अपना पोएट्री का जर्नी बोलना चाहता हूँ कि मैं भी ऐसे मतलब पोएट्री में मेरा कोई इतना इंटरेस्ट वगैरह नहीं था पहले, पर जैसे कॉलेज से मैं पास आउट हुआ तो मुझे मतलब आर्ट करने में वो सब में इंटरेस्ट था। पर जैसे मैं पास आउट हुआ तो मुझे टाइम थोड़ा मिला, तो मैं ये सब चीजों के बारे में मतलब मुझे संस्कृत के मंत्रज जो शिव के होते हैं तो वो सब मुझे सुनने के लिए मिला। तो उनका जो रिदिम होता था साउंड का, तो साउंड से ही मैं मतलब संस्कृत मंत्रस के मतलब इंटरेस्ट आने लगा। मतलब एक अ, मुझे समझ में आया धीरे धीरे कि हम जो बात करते हैं क्या वो यूज कर रहे हैं वो उतना मायने नहीं रखता है, पर मायने वो रखता है कि हम कैसे बोल रहे हैं, मतलब हमारा वॉइस कैसा है। तो इस तरह से मैं मतलब साउंड से ज्यादा प्रभावित था। फिर मुझे उसके मीनिंग समझ में आए और शिव के बारे में मुझे थोड़ा बहुत पता चलने लगा। तो ऐसा होता है कि जब कुछ चीजें होते हैं जिसको हम डिस्क्राइब नहीं कर पाते हैं तो उसको गाने के माध्यम से हम बोलना शुरू कर देते हैं। तो म्यूजिक इज लाइक to express something which is inexpressible in the normal words। तो उस तरह का जैसे कबीर बोलते हैं कि पानी में आग लग गया, तो उसका कुछ मीनिंग हो सकता है। पोएट पोएट मतलब पोएट्री होगा तो लोग नहीं सोचेंगे कि ये कुछ खराब लिखा है, उसका कुछ अलग मीनिंग होता है। तो धीरे धीरे मुझे पोएट्री वर्ड्स के मतलब कैसा होता है वो सब के बारे में पता चला। और मुझे इस सब के बारे में भी मतलब धीरे धीरे जैसे मैं सोचने लगा तो मुझे पता चला कि हमारा स्क्रिप्ट जो है लैंग्वेज सिस्टम है वो बहुत ऑर्गेनाइज तरीके से बनाया गया था। जैसे कि हमारे अंदर से साउंड कैसे निकल रहा है, जैसे आम को हम बोलते हैं वो हम माउथ को ओपन करके क्लोज करने से ही निकलता है। फिर अपने लिप्स को जब लिप्स टच में आते हैं तो प फ ब भ म ऐसे वो साउंड निकलता है। उसको जस्ट हम मतलब बस एक अक्षर उसको रिप्रेजेंटेशन दे दिए हैं। तो हमारा जो लैंग्वेज सिस्टम है वो साउंड के बेसिस पे ही मतलब इवॉल्व हुआ। मुझे मेरा फीलिंग है ये, जैसे मैं रिसर्च करके पाया हूँ। तो ये सब के बारे में मुझे धीरे धीरे पता चला। और इंडिया इन पिक्सल्स में कभी कभी देखता हूँ तो अच्छा वीडियो होता है। एंड आई एम हैप्पी कि आशीष भाई भी आईआईटी से है और मैं भी आईआईटी से पास आउट हुआ था 2016 से। तो मुझे मतलब अ, अच्छा लगता है। और राधा कृष्णन सर का तो मैं भी देखता रहता हूँ और प्रीवियसली स्पेस होस्ट कर चुके हैं। तो वही चीज मैं बोलने वाला था कि मतलब थैंक यू फॉर गिविंग मी द अपॉर्चुनिटी टू स्पीक माय माइंड।
Thanks a lot, Bhairav. Thank you very much. And yes, Ashrish, Bhairav is from IIT Kharagpur only, same college.
Wow, like I will connect with you, Bhairav. Cool. Short, small world.
Yes, thank you very much. So, abhi hum, we can go ahead. We are about to strike 9. So, we are left with one section, which is the self-composed poems by Radha Sir and Ashrish. So, should we take one question from Richard? He has raised a hand. So, Richard, maybe you can quickly go with your question, then we'll move to that section.
Thank you very much. I want to highlight a point that arts. When it comes to arts, it's my life. Arts, give meaning to everyone's life and help us, it can understand our world. It is an it is also essential part of our world. It is an essential part of our culture because I think it allows us to have a deeper understanding of our emotion. It increases our like let's say self-awareness and also allows us to be open to new ideas and experiences. Art and culture I have been, it's got a very deep meaning. Thanks for coming up with these new ideas with Dr. Pillai or and Choudhury. I'm gonna be the member, the one of the who will keep on listening, trying to understand and have listening mode. I will be on a listening mode. Thank you very much.
Okay, Richard, thank you so much for your words. Much appreciated. I can see Ananya request for the mic, but Ananya will take your question just after Sir and Ashish have their poems in our space. So over to you, Radha Sir, one of your self-composed poems, please.
Thank you so much, Sonali. I was wondering which poem should I speak because it's been quite some time that I actually wrote a poetry. And if you remember the last Twitter space, I spoke about a poetry that I written for my daughter. And it's been quite some time that I've not written. I've been writing a lot of books. So I thought, I'll do it in a different way. I'll talk about and read a poem of one of my favorite authors who is actually beyond, I would say, nationalities. And here, for many people may not know this that he's an English writer, but actually he's an Indian. And many people don't know his background. His name is Rudyard Kipling. I'm sure all of you know about a very famous work, Jungle Book. So Rudyard Kipling, even though actually has got a European origin, and I was listening to all of you, you see, especially when Ashris spoke about, Sanskrit and all, many people don't know, even though the name of the poet and the author is very much English, he actually is an Indian by heart. So I want to just tell that, as we learn in poetry, it should not be limited to any boundaries of religion, color, caste, countries also. So I want to give a little bit of background which came to me by surprise a few years ago. Some of you may or may not be aware that I'm actually a director and a professor at the University of Mumbai. So I remember, this movie called Jungle Book very recently was launched. And in my childhood, we used to actually remember Jungle Book, where a very famous song, I would say a poem converted into a song, existed for our childhood days. Jungle Jungle Fool Killa Hai. I'm sure many of you must have heard about that song. And in the recent version that was, made, Gulzar Saab once again rewrote that song, and you can watch it in the video also. But a few people came from that team and requested Mumbai University to actually do a shooting in our university. And some of my friends were there told me we were surprised. Why would somebody come to a university to actually shoot a movie and some collaboration for a movie like Jungle Book? And it is later on that we came to know that Rudyard Kipling was born in India and his father was actually sent by the Britishers, and JJ School of Arts, which is a very famous school of Mumbai University, actually was the place where he stayed and surprisingly wrote Jungle Book. So if you study or watch the movie Jungle Book, you'll be surprised. Lot of Indian characters like Mowgli, Shera, all these, are Indian characters. And since I thought, some of you may or may not be aware of this background, and I'm currently going through a very interesting phase in my life, which I spoke about is parenting. So there is one interesting poem about Rudyard Kipling, probably is very, very essential for parenting, is what I believe, and it's one of my famous poems. So Sonal, if you permit, I like to read his poem rather than my poem.
Sure, sir. Anything as you wish, no problem.
So, Rudyard Kipling. So, let's consider him an Indian with a European name, but beyond boundaries. So, this poem, a very famous one, is called Brother Square Ties. Brother Square Toes, Rewards and Fairies. So, it's about a father who is actually training his son. I can relate to it because my son and daughter both are going through what is called the learning curve in their life, and they're slowly becoming teenagers. So, this is something that I keep reading a lot to inspire myself. How do you bring up your children? So the poem is in English. So I will just narrate it, and it goes like this. If you can keep your head high when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies or being hated. Don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you have spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stop and build up them with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and swing, if you serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue. This is my last and favorite paragraph. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, that means you are famous and still you can maintain your sanity. Or walk with the kings, not lose the common touch. So you may be among the kings, but you are also touch with a common man. If neither forced nor loving friends can hurt you. Imagine this line, neither forced, not only enemies, but also friends cannot hurt you. If all men count with you, everybody trusts you, but none too much. इतना भी trust नहीं कि basically you broke their trust. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you will be my man, my son. That means look at the kind of values in this particular poem. Everything that you have created can go to dust one day, but still you are ready to getting up and say, I will build it again. And don't even regret everything that has been lost. I would suggest that you can go on the internet, Google it again. Every line is powerful. But for me, I would say, this building a strong character and faith in humanity and God. So this is from my side for today. Thank you so much, Sonali.
Thank you so very much, sir. And I can't tell you the moment you started with Jungle Book, it was one of my favorite childhood memories, and Mowgli was my most favorite character, and I didn't at all know all of these details. And thank you for that poem. It's indeed like each and every line. I was just giving the emoticons because each and every line that you can resonate with. Thank you so much for that poem, sir. Over to you, Ashish. Welcome for your self-composed poem. I'm hoping that you'll be. I have read your poems, and you write well. Please do not shy away.
So, hey guys, I wouldn't call these poems. I also have a hashtag I use called not a poem when I write these. These are more like Facebook posts. And I like whenever I write, I I just write it like under a minute. I haven't written any poem in my life that has taken more than a minute because I feel like I am not writing those when I'm writing. It's like some atma or something just takes over and like uses you as a medium to let this message out. And so when I'm done, sometimes I don't feel like I wrote it. It's just like it feels like it comes. So there are two such Facebook posts slash messages which I think I would present to you as poems. And in my head, I anthropomorphize cultures, which is like I try to imagine how would like Bengali culture be as a human being, as one person, or how would India be as a person talking to China as a person. Like I guess we all do that, but like this poem is all about anthropomorphization. And yeah, let me start. Okay, so this I wrote. I don't know. I was feeling little. I was just thinking about India, and I was thinking about how very different we all are, and yet there is one story that comes. So it goes like this. It's called "Let Me." Okay, so let me be fierce like Haryana. Let me be beautiful like Bengal. Let me be conscientious like Gujarat. Let me be wealthy like Maharashtra. Let me have the spirit of Goa. Let me have the individuality of Kerala. Let me have the regalness of Rajasthan. Let me have the humility of Himachal. Let me love myself like Tamil Nadu. Let me rebuild myself like Uttar Pradesh. Let me be for everyone like Delhi. And let me be of no one like Lakshadweep. Let every breath and every second of my life be a window for India to express herself. Uh, yeah, so that was a message where I was thinking what every state and what every region sort of has a message for me.
So beautiful, so beautiful.
Thank you so much, sir. The second one that I want to say is just specifically for Bengal. This is a culture I wasn't born into, but I studied 5 years there, and still did not connect with it. I think it was only when I went to US and started listening to songs of Tagore that I felt there was some connection with the strange culture. And since then, I've been little obsessed with the culture there. It's almost like if I was a person and Bengal was another person, it would be like a very creepy, obsessed stalker. That is how I sometimes feel about Bengal, because I don't understand it because I was not born into it. But I take few aspects of it which I love, and I hyper obsess about it. So this was like a self-examinatory thing. It goes like this. Maybe I love Bengal like a white man loves India, abstract, artificial, and disconnected from the ground. I don't care for its poor or its trodden. I don't care for its river or its problems. I love her from a distance, where her spikes don't hurt me, imagining all the details that my eyes can't see. I love Bengal like the lady who loves a man only so that she can make her lover jealous. Rabindra Sangeet is my mango lassi. Baul Sangeet is my cobra asan. I love only a caricature of Bengal, but oh, what beauty the caricature is. So yeah, it's like when you try to know a new culture, it feels like you're just taking parts of it, and you're appropriating it, but in that awkwardness, you like it nevertheless. Yep. So
Beautiful,
that's good.
beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you, sir. Mhm.
I am just speechless. I just do not have much words to say. What do I say to? I mean, both of you are so great speakers and as poets also, of course. I mean, I have read the second poem on your timeline, Ashrish, earlier also, and the first one I was feeling like, okay, it's somewhat like Tagore had written the Janagana Manadhi. It's like covering the entire landscape of India. You did try try doing something of that sort, defining all the states, their nature. So yeah, amazing. I do not have enough adjectives to both of Sir's and yours presentations. Thanks a lot. I think we do not have a lot of time. Sir has to leave at 9:30 p.m. So, sir, should we move to the Teams meeting where we can have your book launch there?
Yes,
And
yes.
yes, so all the audience here, we have the second segment in the Teams meeting chat. I mean, it's a video meeting, of course. You can turn on your camera and ask questions later on after we have the book launch from sir, and I have some video release also. We have you can ask questions later on also, and the meeting link is in the pinned tweet in my profile. You can click on there and just go there. I am ending the space here. Anyone who had raised hand or requested for the mic to ask something or say something, you can please join in the Teams meeting and have your questions set there. Hoping all of you would be joining the Teams meeting. See you from here. Bye. Sir and Ashrish, let's join there.
So we'll join there.